we had a contingency or some money set aside that we could give to that family without having to worry about where it would come out of a budgeted item. So it'll sit there, and sometimes it rolls over. Now, it's going to come in handy because our craft director this year told us yesterday that we are 17 booths short on our craft fair reservations because of the COVID and what's going on. Now, 17 booths is a lot of money. We don't know if we're going to get any more, or the reservations are not coming in that much. So I've got a little bit of money left over for a couple of years that's saved up that we can still operate as a club in case we don't make the budget or bring in the kind of money that we're used to doing to take care of our scholarships and our schools and training and education and so forth. We're good for about a year or two that we might be able to kind of use some of that money. So it's all a little bit of this, a little bit of that. That's why sometimes I'll get a little tight with some of the money, because I know I want to use it possibly for something in the future, or if an emergency comes up.
Hey, Bob, would you mind taking a couple of questions out of the chat?
I'll take as many questions as you want.
Okay, we'll start the first one. Sarah from Mont Eagle asked about club accounts and foundation accounts, and maybe by a show of hands, how many have both club and a foundation account? And maybe you could talk about the usefulness of that.
Well, the club has the two accounts that I talked about earlier, that normal checking account that I keep about $3,000 to $5,000 in, and then the rest of the money that comes in from the craft fair and everything gets rolled into that savings or money market, which this way it's a lot harder for somebody to wash a check or to get money out of that. Foundation accounts, I don't have those. It's just included in our operating and our money markets and stuff. And when we pay out for foundation or whatever, we just write a check out of that. And I keep track of it from my budget item that I write for foundation or Paul Harris, polio, and so forth. Did that answer your question?
Do you have a foundation?
Do I have a foundation? No.
The Rotary Foundation. Y'all
the Rotary.
You don't have a definite club and a foundation.
Our club is in the process of establishing a 501c3 to keep our huge projects separate from our operating expenses and smaller projects. And I'm not sure how that's going to go.
Well,
we did that a couple of years ago, and I just wondered how many had done it.
Oak Ridge has a 501c3. When we had the fire, we got grants and a ton of money from Rotary International and so forth. And the money went to Oak Ridge, which had the 501. What they did then was they would send us money, we would deposit it, and I would have it classed as fire fund or whatever. And when Jerry Ware would go out and buy all the stuff he was buying and using his credit card and stuff, he would give me the invoice and I'd pay it out of the funds that came from there. And any money that people wanted to contribute or donate to us, we asked them to send it to Oak Ridge because they had it all set up for that.
Yeah.
And the reason why we did that.
Oh, excuse me, Bob. I was going to say the main advantage to having that foundation, which we had in Oak Ridge, is that when people want to contribute, it's a 501c3, and that's a tax deductible contribution for them. Whereas if they just give money to your club, it is not.
And that's the advantage we found of it. But I just didn't know how many had done it, and I was just curious how many.
Just one of the things that we do at Bearden, we use the International's directed charity up there. So it's donor advised fund.
Or do they have
So
a
some-
direct donor advised fund?
Yeah, so if,
Is that
so
where
if
your
somebody wants,
foundation money goes?
yeah, so if somebody wants to to get that deduction from the deductible standpoint, we have them make it to the, and I forget the exact name of the thing, but it's like the Rotary Foundation, Rotary Club of Beard Director Advised Fund, something to that effect.
And how do you make disbursements from that?
So then I have, because it has to maintain and always go to a charitable organization or something like that, I'm getting ready to send something to Friends of the Smoky Mountains, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We send up information to them. You have to include the tax ID number, name, all that kind of good stuff. And all that stuff's available on the IRS's website to show that it's
Right, we did it, a couple of our members helped set up the 501c3 a few years ago, and it's worked really well. I didn't know how many of us were.
Yeah, so that for those that don't want to go through the expense of setting up the 501c3 specifically for their club.
Your
that
donor
works really
advised funds works instead of having a 501c3.
Correct. So anybody that's going to make the check out, we have it sent to the donor advised fund, and then we, as the club, are able to say which charity are we going to earmark that money for.
Keith Leonard, Maryville Club. We have our club has a separate foundation that has its own budget. It's got a 501c3. It files its own 990s. It's got its own budget. All the big projects go through that. And the club has its own bank account and a savings account and its own budget. And where we maybe collect through billing, Rotary Foundation contributions and Polio Plus contributions, that kind of thing. Several times a year, we recap all that stuff, send it, cut checks to the foundation and then to our foundation chair, and then those dollars get sent to wherever they have to go for Polio Plus or Rotary Foundation and the names and all. So we only file one 990, and that's for the foundation because it is a 501c3.
Well, that's what I was wondering, because I'm new at this. I've never done it, but the foundation will have to do a 501c. It's a 501c3 and has to file a 990. But the club who is not a 501c3 doesn't have to file a 990.
Yeah, the club has to file a 992. The
990 also
is
does?
the 990 is for the club.
But I thought it was for nonprofits.
The club is a nonprofit.
But it's
Club is a
not
nonprofit.
established as such, is it?
Yes, it's a 501c4.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Are
Those might-
fours.
Yeah.
And
I'm
they
new
have
at
to file
this, so-
990s also.
Well, Keith, why don't you have to file two 990s?
We only file one. And that's what's been going on for a long, long time.
I
Because
like your way of doing it.
our receipts are really low. And if your receipts are really low, you can do the postcard. And we've been doing the postcard
Your receipts for the
for the club.
club. Okay.
All the big dollars go through our foundation. All the big.
Right. I think that's the same with ours. Woody will have to say so, but I think that's the same as ours. Our club is just, as far as I know, and I'm learning, it's just the operations like food in, food out, dues in, dues, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
When I was treasurer of the Madison, Wisconsin South Rotary, we had a foundation, and I honestly don't recall ever doing a tax return for either one.
It's
Now, let's-
required.
Let's
It's required.
keep in mind, Beth, that the postcard is a 990. It's just a simplified 990.
Right.
Yes,
Very
that's
small
right.
990.
You just send it, you just fill that out, send it in, and you're compliant, and you won't get an interest and a penalty of $6,000 like we did that. We had to send a letter because once we did one, they went back a couple of years and decided we should have done one then too, and then we had to fill out some forms. But do it. It shouldn't be that hard for you to do as a club, and it's for the club's peace of mind too, and Rotary requires it anyway. It's a requirement from Rotary International.
Hey, Bob,
What other questions? What other questions
I
around?
was not used to the smaller, easy forms. I didn't know about that.
Hey, Bob, can you handle a couple of cash flow questions?
Let it rip.
One of them is, how would you recommend handling cash flow in light of the fact that a lot of fundraisers got canceled this spring? Another question along that line is, what if an invoice comes in that exceeds the budget? What does your club do? What do you recommend?
Okay. Now, the first one is you're going to have to tighten the belt a little bit. You know, maybe we're not all bringing in the same kind of money that we did last year, the year before. It's been really, really good. There's certain things that you're going to have to end up doing. Now, you can cut some things. You know, when you're looking at your budget and you look at how much money you've budgeted out for certain things, and you're seeing that, well, they never came and asked for that money, or we budgeted $1,000 and they only spent $200. Hey, there's $800 that you can put to something else now. And when they come and they go, where's my $1,000? You go, well, you didn't use it last year, so you only got 200 this year. Maybe next year you'll get more. So you look at all your cash and all your income is going to come in, and you're going to see it on your P&L. So you got your income. If your income is $50,000, $100,000, whatever, that's what you've got to work with your budget. You start going through your budget, you start putting your money in. Remember, there are fixed expenses in that budget, district dues, international dues, based on the requirements from our district and from polio. There are certain things that we're obligated and we need to pay. Pets, different trainings, different things. You may be paying for your lunches or renting the room that you're using, and that's a fixed cost. You got to make sure your fixed costs are there, and then you start, what do I have left over? And then I can go ahead and budget that out. It might not be as much as it was last year, but you're going to, you tell them, I'm trying to give you what we have. This year's been a tough year. You know, I told the club last week, this has been the toughest year as far as me putting a budget together to see what kind of money we're going to be able to spend. So, you can only give them what you have. Now, second question. That's why I have a special projects fund. I set aside some extra money, maybe a couple of $1,000, and somebody comes and they go, this came up and we'd really like to do this. Where can we get the money? I says, well, we've got special projects. Your board gets together and they go, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's take it out of that. You can do that. The other thing that you can also do, and it's not going to hurt anything, you can borrow or ask some of your other committees if they would like to participate in giving a little bit of money towards one of your projects that, say, you're over a little bit, you need a couple of $100. It's not unheard of, and I think that they would say fine. So there's different ways, and you can go, Beth, Jennifer, you can always go over budget if you don't go over too much, right? There's always some money that's out there. Everybody tries to zero balance everything, but if you spend a few $100 over what you're budgeted, it's not going to hurt anything. So
the district has a procedure for going over budget, and they have to get it approved by the finance committee. So that's how they handle going over budget. If the finance committee says no, can't do it.
Well, there it is too.
Yeah, and in my club, in the district, follow exactly what you just said, Beth, but in my club, we just go back to the board. But, the bottom line is you cannot spend more than is in your bank account. So that's really
true.
important to look at too.
But see, what happens is I always find that no matter what I budget, at the end of the year, I'll take a look at the bottom line and I'm always under budget. And it might not be a lot. There's some money, but I'm under budget. So I've got some money in the account that I might be able to use the next year for something that might come up that's not part of the budget.
So Bob, you're nailing.
And then as a treasurer, you know that stuff. You know what your budget looks like. You know how much money. I know how much money is in my account every day by just looking at it. And I mean, I know if someone calls me and says, can I do this? I know what I have. That's what being a treasurer is all about too.
Yeah. So one of the things that we've done at Bearden is we've set a couple of different things in place. for a reserve, we want to try to keep 6 months of our operating
Very good.
budget in reserve. And then, Bob, you're nailing it as far as keeping the books and stuff. If, as a treasurer, and I'm going to say it this way, every year the president and the committees put together the budget and they say, here's what it is. So we always look for that zero balanced budget. Sometimes it hits. Most times I'm on your side, Bob, that we didn't spend quite as much as we did the year before. So as an example, I know right now, going into this upcoming year, that we've built up over the past several years about $25,000 worth of charitable type stuff that we can spend on projects. Just because the budget didn't get it every year.
Mhm.
Years back, it built up more, so we were able to do some huge grants.
I can always zero budget my P&L. All I've got to do is look at the bottom and say, well, I've got $2,000 left over. Oops, it just went into special projects. Now my bottom line is zero. So, you know,
Yeah.
you can make a zero budget anytime you want to.
Yeah,
Bob,
that's just
I
what we've
think
done zero
Janet's
every
got
year.
Janet's got a question here.
Go, Janet.
that was my question. If you're budgeting for this coming year and the big fundraiser may or may not happen because of COVID this fall, would you just leave that out of the budget and then wait and see? Or would you put it in the budget and then if it doesn't materialize, then back out everything it funds?
Well, what I do is I don't do my budget doesn't get put together until either like December, towards the end of December, or maybe the beginning of January. Okay. By that time, I know how much money we've brought in as a club for the year, because again, our year goes January through December. Okay. So, you know, we do 19 scholarships and they're $1,500 a piece. Maybe I have to cut a scholarship or cut them from $1,500 to $1,200. Or the $5,000, we give $17,000 to the Pigeon Forge schools. Maybe they get $3,000 each or $4,000 each or something. We're still trying to give them something, but they may not get as much as they got the year before. That's kind of, you know, it's subjective. You have to decide what you can give. You can talk to some of these folks like the school and you can say, I know we gave you $5,000. You probably depend on that, but we may only be able to give you $3,000 or $3,500 this year. That's how you cut it down, or you spend a little less because you have a little bit less, and you're not cutting them off completely, but you're cutting it down a little bit.
Yeah,
To me, it's like the treasurer is the CFO of the club. And so they're kind of managing the money of a small business. And that's what he's saying, is he juggles back and forth to manage this small business, this small pot of money. We don't all, now he has a pretty big pot of money, but the rest of us don't normally.
We're lucky. We're fortunate.
Yeah, I call y'all the kings of fundraising.
Yeah.
But as far as not being able to do your fundraisers this year, you know, has their club thought about any creative ways to do like a virtual fundraiser, a virtual gala, or anything like that? Because we may have to resort to some things like that. Our gala has already happened, so we have our money in place to spend for next year. But those kinds of things can really affect your projects or whatever you had in mind to do every year if you can't have your major fundraiser. So we get all of our money from one fundraiser basically for the year. And so we're lucky. Ours was in the first week of February before any of this, the COVID stuff really got started. So next,
we've gotten some big donations to help fill the gap.
Our club has, they have what we call Hunger Walk that raises money for the food banks. And this year, they're working on doing a virtual Hunger Walk. And people walk on their own and add up I don't know. I'm not sure how it's going to work yet. They're working on that, but that's how it's going to be. And
I saw that
we
the
understand.
Alzheimer's Association is doing that too. They have a walk every year, and they're doing a virtual walk also.
We understand that we're not going to make as much as we have in the past, but we also understand that'll probably be temporary.
Ours did something similar, and so we usually do a golf tournament and have for many years, and we usually have a lot of small businesses that are sponsors of that. We're recognizing that most of those small businesses have been hit kind of hard this year. We're going to go ahead and do the golf tournament, and we're going to use the same sponsors, and we're not going to ask them for any money. We're going to take the money out of savings and run it the way we always have, and just figure that, you know, we usually make $5,000 on that, so we'll take $5,000 on savings and recognize all of those same individuals that supported us for so many years as being the same sponsor level that they have been traditionally, and we'll make it back some year. They won't forget us.
There you go.
You know, you all are good business people. You know, you're in the clubs, you work together. You're going to find a way to give the money to who needs it the most. You do the best you can. I mean, that's, you're going to, you do what you do, you know, whatever you have, and you'll figure it out. And, you know, I think we'll be okay after, but, you know, just kind of go from there. That's what we're going to do. See, our money, the money that I've budgeted is money from last year. Well, you know, my money is from last year. So all this money is this year's money. But I got a little tight with it and told them, you know, let's squeeze it a little bit because we don't know what we're going to get next year. So I'm really anticipating or practicing for not having as much for next year as much as for this year. Well, you know. So anyway, what other questions do we have here?
Hey, Bob, there was a question about a rainy day fund, and Ralph Best from Kingston asked, how much is it appropriate to hold in a rainy day fund? Maybe that varies from club to club.
I've got a couple. There's a couple of things that we do. For the folks that have been to our club, Bet's been there, and a few of you have been there. We do a couple of different things. We send a barrel around. That's for the Boys and Girls Club. That's just a normal thing. But then our sergeant at arms gets up and he gets everybody up for money and, you know, so forth and so on. What we do is we collect money for birthdays and anniversaries. If you're 50 years old, we'd like to get $50 out of you. If you're in the club 10 years, we'd like to get $10 out of you. Now, what I do with that money is I put it in my contingency fund. Like what you're talking about, rainy day, the contingency fund just sits there and it builds up. And if I need it for an emergency or whatever, that's what I use it for. So
that's what you did with the money that I gave you when I turned 55.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we appreciated that. Come again. But
on my birthday.
Yeah, well, come again. I'll buy you lunch. But that's my rainy day fund, my contingency fund, and you know, a little creative accounting here and there. I save some money. I've got about 40,000 in that thing right now. That's, you know, some of that'll get us through a year, and it's been money building up since I've been treasurer, and we don't use it only in case there's an emergency and we're really going to need it.
All right, we're getting down to the wire here.
Yeah, there's a poll that Ron wanted me to run. So if you'll all take just a second and throw the poll up there, I'm going to unmute everybody that may have got unmuted when they came in. If you're still muted, it means you muted yourself. But if there's anything else you want to throw in there, go ahead. And this is
let me do one more thing for everybody. I know I don't have on the screen, but if anybody wants to email me to get any information, it's Guerrera. You can see that Bob Guerrera there. Guerrera Bob 55@gmail.com. And my number, my cell phone is 335-3068. So you call me or you email me if you have any questions or anything I can help you with. I'd be happy to.
I'm gonna email you for a loan from the contingency fund.
You got to talk to Madonna for that one. Madonna.
Hey, Beth, are we out of time completely, or
I see 2 minutes.
Okay, well, I had a few pieces of information I want to share with everybody as they build their budgets. I've already started getting questions in from next year's treasurers, and I can either throw a slide up here, or if we're really out of time, I can email these slides to people. But it tells you your dues, what they're going to be next year from the district is $24 per person, per member, and I will bill you in January for that. And it's going to be based on your membership as of November. So make sure you have your information correct in DACDB and in all the information systems that you put your membership in. And the other,
For Jennifer,
pardon?
when in November, 1st or the end?
It's the end of November.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, sometimes it's hard to find that information because some clubs don't report, but I get the best information I can. And if it's ever wrong, you can tell me and I will adjust it because you always tell the truth. The other thing is PETS, that's President-elect training. That happens in the spring. And we charge each club for their president to attend that, whether they come or not. And they also attend PETS orientation. This past year was weird. I know you guys didn't get to, or your presidents didn't get to go to that, but it's normally $345 each year that I will bill you in about April timeframe. That'll come from the district. It'll come from me. And my email is HackettJY. So you may be thinking, who the heck is that? Since my last name's Campbell, but that was my email before. So it's HackettJY@AOL.com. And the other thing that you will get, and Bob mentioned this, is Rotary International dues. And that gets confusing for many people because they think they've already paid their district dues because they paid their Rotary International dues. Those are two totally different, separate dues that you have to pay. Rotary International will bill you in January and in July, and it's based on your membership at the beginning of each of those months. And again, make sure your data, get with your secretary, make sure they are up to date and that they got good membership data in your DACDB. You do not want, or in Rotary International, you do not want to get billed for people that are no longer on your rolls and that kind of thing. So Rotary dues went up this year. They went up by $1 per year, which meant your bill that you're going to get every 6 months went up 50 cents. So this past year it was $34 twice a year per member, and now it's going to be $34.50 twice a year per member. And your dues bill, the first one each year, will not just have the dues on it per member, it will also have, let's see, I think it's $6 a person for the magazine, Rotary magazine. It'll have a bill for your board insurance, and every 3 years it has the Council on Legislation, a little fee, but I don't think you'll have that for another couple of years. So I can email that to you so you'll have it in front of you, you can look at it, but you'll need to build those amounts into your budgets.
I would appreciate your sending that because that just confused me.
I know, I'm sorry. It's hard to talk.
No, it's not your fault. It's my brain's fault.
No, it's just hard to talk through
How
all
much
those
per
numbers.
person is a district and how much is international? So I would appreciate your.
Yeah, the main thing is there's two. There's district
There
and there's
are two.
Rotary International. Different bills.
Hey guys, go on Rotary International's website. There's a world of information. There's actually a treasurer session, which is a video about 60 minutes, and they'll walk you through all kinds of stuff. And I use it all the time.
Before you log off, check the comment or the chat box. Way up in the top of the chat box, I copied and pasted the link to that site that Bob's talking about that takes you to all the treasurer training. And then if you're really confused, all the way at the bottom of the chat box is Bob's cell phone number. So call, wake him up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, my phone goes off from 10 to 7. So,
Does the treasurer part of the
Information.
My Rotary
Great job.
have the
does the
information?
treasurer part what?
Does the treasurer part of My Rotary, I'm just looking at this, My Rotary reference learning treasurer, does it have the information about what's due to international and what's due to your one, international and the
No,
Rotary.
the answer is no.
It won't have the district, no.
And the national district, well, that could be solved.
No, every district's got different
Oh,
amounts.
every district is different.
Oh, yeah, they're all over the world. So everybody's dues are different.
I was able to go on on the Rotary site and Googled and just searched for the dues, international dues, and they showed up. And they gave you the breakdown for each of the years, just what Jennifer was talking about, the increases. There is a lot of information there. You can just,
Tell me, Paul, again, where is that?
just on the Rotary International site, the My Rotary, and I just in the search box put in, I think I put in the 2020-21 international dues, and it popped up and gave, I think it actually came out of the.
Cool.
So are the international dues the same, but the district dues are not? Is that right?
Correct.
Yep.
Thank you. Y'all
So
helping me
Jennifer's-
a fight here. Thank you.
Yes,
Anybody
Jennifer's
else?
going to bill us in, if I understand Jennifer correctly, we're going to build probably in December, thereabouts, for the $24 a head, early January, something like that. She'll send that to us. The international will prorate it, send us the invoice in January and July, based on the numbers that we have on Rotary International's record.
When you do your budget, take a look at what you paid last year, add 50 cents or add a little bit more, whatever the number of members you have, put that in your budget. That's fixed.
Okay, so the district bills when and international bills when? If y'all could just tell me
The
that.
district, I will be billing you in the December, January timeframe for the district, and that's once a year.
Well, a times, okay.
One time a year, that's the $24 per head. And then the Rotary International will bill you twice.
Twice a
in
year.
January and in July. So you'll get a bill real soon in July.
And international is how much a person?
It's $34.50 per member.
So
twice a year.
$34.50 times 2 plus 24 per member to the in the sky people.
I'll do it.
No.
There'll be a little more than that.
Yeah, there's a magazine. Really, let me email you this list because it's nicely written out on these slides that I've got here.
Yeah, I'm very linear. I
I
like
am
it.
too.
Yeah.
I call it talking numbers in the air. I like them on a piece of paper.
Plus extra, I'll just write down on my notes, plus extra. We're paying at least toward $100 per person per year to the bigger Rotary.
Oh.
No.
Times 2 plus 24.
24 is just
50 times 2 is $69 plus $24.
I mean, yes, it's toward 100.
That's the dues. That's it. There's no 1,200.
No, I said toward 100. I'm sorry.
Oh, toward 100. I thought you
Toward
said
100.
1,200.
You couldn't
No,
understand the
not 12.
Sewanee accent. Toward 100
Yeah.
per person in dues to whomever.
Because our dues is quarterly, I figured out it roughly was about $28 a person per quarter.
I mean, that seems to make sense. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Okay, y'all. Have a good evening.
Thank you all for
Thank you for
Thank you all. Have a
attending.
great night.
Thank you,
putting up
Bob.
so many questions.
Good job, Bob.
No problem.
In 2 weeks.
Yay.
Bye, all.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks.
Count it down, Ron.
12, 11, 10, 9.